Morning, everyone. Welcome to the Data Science Festival. So today we're excited to bring you our 9th Data Science May Day Festival. My name's India Thompson. I work at a consultancy called Kin & Carter. And yeah, just want to thank you all for coming today. We ask that you can please just switch your phones to silent, and you'll find a schedule of talks and sessions in your booklets, which you can find in your swag bags. Very cool. And there will also be popcorn available from 12 to 5. There is also currently an ongoing competition where if you upload a selfie with your popcorn, you can be in the chance of winning £500. So if you have any questions, find a member of the Data Science Festival team. We're all wearing these black T-shirts. And there is also free water at the back of the room if you need it, so help yourself. As you know, the Data Science Festival is a celebration of all things data. We aim to connect the tech community and foster the sharing of knowledge, inspiration, and ideas. Just a reminder that all talks will be recorded and uploaded to the Data Science Festival website and YouTube channel. And if a room is full, please make your way to another, and you will be able to watch back anything that you've missed. So no worries about missing anything. As the event is free to attend and built by the community, we just want to make sure we thank our sponsors. So thanks to Data Idols, BSI, Unidays, Future Coders, Superlinked, Iris Informer, SDG Group, Digitus, dunnhumby, NVIDIA, Snowflake, Create Communities, and finally, CodeNode. It's a mouthful. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Merve. So her talk is Explaining Explainability, an interdisciplinary approach to communicate machine learning outcomes. So she's the head of data science academic partnerships and research at Allianz Personal with more than 10 years of commercial and academic experience. She draws on an interdisciplinary background in computer science, complex systems, and behavioral science. So prior to joining Allianz Personal, she completed her doctoral degree on quantifying human behavior using online images at the University of Warwick with Chancellor's International Scholarship and the Alan Turing Institute Enrichment Scheme funding. Her work has been featured by television and press worldwide, including coverage in Financial Times and Bloomberg Business. So let's welcome our first speaker.
Thank you, India, and thank you all for coming and joining me this early on a Saturday morning. I'm currently on my 3rd coffee, so I'm hoping to make some intelligible sentences in the next half an hour or so. So thanks for the extensive intro. I wasn't expecting that. You already heard about me. I'm Merve Alanyali. I'm from Allianz Personal lines insurance business. And I've joined Allianz 5 years ago, and today I'll be talking about explaining explainability. What is it all about, what I'll be talking about today? So I will be talking about how can we explain, but really explain, AI decision making. And hopefully there are 2 points that I want to convince you, if you don't already agree with those points, that benefits of close collaboration between data science practitioners, domain experts, and social science researchers. Another collaboration aspect is between industry and academia. So I also would like to show the significance of industry-academia collaborations through our work and giving you an example. But first of all, I want to take a step back and give a bit of an introduction of the company, the data science team, what we're doing, just to give you a bit of a background context. So, Allianz Personal Lines Insurance, it's a general insurance business, so we mainly sell car and home insurance with a small book of pet and travel. And as the data science team at Allianz Personal, we put machine learning models into practice. We are a fairly mature team. We've been going on for around 7 years, predates me, and since the inception, we have influenced more than 50 decision points. So there's more models per decision point as well. We have nearly 60 team members. We are a mix of data scientists, data engineers, data hunters, and data analysts within the team. And we are a central team. So we sit under transformation in the wider business, and together with the support functions, we give support to the rest of the business functions. So whoever has a data science need, it can be underwriting, pricing, marketing, claims, HR, you name it. And We also have a diverse set of data, diverse types of data, from structured to unstructured, which I like saying is a data scientist heaven. I would never have thought I would end up in an insurance company, but here we are, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm obviously biased. So how do we do all of that? So we focus our effort around our 3 team pillars. So they're not disparate, they're heavily joined and overlapping, and they feed off of each other. So delivery side is our use cases that we work with the business functions and our stakeholders. Technical excellence is, of course, what we ensure with every project that we're working on. And research and innovation is the 3rd pillar. So that's basically looking into what we're not doing yet, what can we do more. It's all the exploration and experimentation that falls under here. And in terms of research and innovation, we basically handle this part in 2 ways. One is by leveraging our internal resources, our team skills and resources, but also working with our academic collaborators. So 5 years ago, we have announced a collaborative partnership with University of Bristol. And the main purpose of that partnership at the time was working together to make advancements in the field of data science by sharing knowledge, skills, and opportunities. So it's been 5 years since the get-go, and we have achieved quite a bit since then, it is safe to say. We have added more universities to our academic network, but the main big partnership is with the University of Bristol. And 5 years ago, around September 2019, we have opened our office physically based on the university campus, and we only had 4 members of our team physically based on campus. And now we have more than 15 members based full-time on campus. So we have quite a diverse set of activities with the University of Bristol. For example, we co-created a master's degree in data science with them, and 16 of our employees, I'm happy to say, successfully graduated back in February, and 2 more to graduate next year. We give guest lectures. Also, in turn, we have academic guest speakers frequently within our team. So that's basically a good way, like a more pipelined way of having a nice 2-way knowledge sharing. We have internship schemes, sponsor MSc projects, so quite a diverse set of activities happening at different levels, from undergraduate to postgraduate levels. So I think it is safe to say that over the course of 5 years, we've established a strong AZP presence and also an awareness for our data science team. But at the heart of all of this is collaborative research. So when I say collaboration, we really do mean that. When we create those project teams, we fully collaborate. We, as a data science team, work very closely with our academic researchers, which I'll come to that a bit more in a second. And so far, we have worked on more than 20 collaborative research projects, again, across all levels, MSc, PhD, postdoc levels. And when I talk about our partnerships and the research projects specifically, one question I usually get asked is, oh, you always collaborate with the usual suspects, right? Computer science, stats, and maths. Well, we do, yes, but we also collaborate with social science research groups, interdisciplinary institutes, and business schools. And one of those collaborations is with the Bristol Digital Futures Institute. So BDFI is one of University of Bristol's 5 institutes, and they are an interdisciplinary institute, and they're working to fundamentally transform digital innovation and create more inclusive and sustainable futures for all. So we worked on a number of projects with the Bristol Digital Futures Institute. I will be covering one of them, the Explainable AI decision-making project, led by Dr. Maricela Gutierrez, and the PI was Professor Susan Holford. But I also want to mention another project, just give a quick shout-out, because they were quite similar, which I won't be covering specifically today. It was the PhD project worked by Kate Byron on machine learning design and use. So, explaining AI decision-making. So when we talk about XAI, it is often referred to as a solution to social, ethical, and regulatory considerations of using machine learning models. And usually when I would say data scientists refer to XAI, we usually in our minds have, in a way, two parts to that explanation. So one, the main part probably, is the technical side. So what are the workings of the model? This is the standard, local, global explainability, the future importance, the more technical, heavy side of it. And then the second part that we usually say is, oh, okay, we have this side, how do we then communicate this bit? This is all good, but in this project with our collaborators, Maricela and Professor Susan Holford, we were asking, what can we do more? What can we do different than that? How can we reimagine explainable AI? So what we did in this context, we decentered machine learning models from explanations. So what do I mean by that is, instead of specifically explaining individual models, we expanded the scope. I really like the way Maricela explains it. We expanded the scope to a broader outlook, and we started focusing on explaining machine learning practices. So there can be multiple models attached to it, and quite a few different actors operating, data scientists being few of those actors. So instead of focusing on the models, we're focusing on ML practices now. And the way we approach this project, there are two parts of this project. I'll be covering only one part today, the organizational ethnography part. But there's another part to it, the second part, which is co-produced with BDFI's community partners, Black Southwest Network and Northwest Media Centre. Really quickly, that part also looks into the perception and explanations of machine learning models by including AI publics that are usually not included during the design of the machine learning model. So if you're interested, come and find me after the talk. I'm happy to say more, but today is not the day to talk about that part. But today it is organizational ethnography together with us, Allianz Personal, and what Maricela did with it. I'm not a social scientist. I have never heard of organizational ethnography. Has anyone heard of the term here before? I got one hand up. It's either everyone's shy or you are like me, you've never heard of it. So my kind of layman's explanation of it, very scientific, is being a fly on the wall. So this was a 3-year project. So over the course of 3 years, Maricela has embedded herself within our team, and a big part of it was being fly on the wall. So she was basically shadowing us as a data science team. And this project was also in collaboration with the claims department, with an AZP, and also the practices of the claims department. So she was basically part of our team meetings, our stakeholder meetings that we do brainstorming about when designing the models, handing over the models. Then she was part of the meetings of the team leaders when they present the models to the end users, but not directly interfering by asking questions other than, improving her understanding, not directing the practices specifically. So that's more the being on the fly, being a fly on the wall side of the project. But there was also more like qualitative data collection part, which was done through interviews, again, interviewing different actors that are involved in that ML practices. And also included reviewing of the documents, internal documents, process documents, communications, and any public information available about the company and practices. So like I said, over the course of 3 years, Maricela was embedded within our team. So I would say it had 3 big wins from both sides. I want to cover some of those now. So being a part of the central team, she could easily access other teams as well and connect to whoever she wants to connect with, like data protection officers or different business functions. So any support functions or business functions, it was to an extent easy for her to just go and find them and contact them. The second part of it is, it's almost in terms of like creating machine learning models is where the action is. So this is where like the brainstorming after idea generation happens with the stakeholders, where the models are designed, built, then again handovers happening with the stakeholders. So she could basically see that for herself firsthand. And last is a win from our side. We don't have social scientists, or not that many, within the data science team. So it was great to have both Maricela and Kate, the PhD that I've mentioned earlier on the slides, embedded within our team, because they brought basically a fresh perspective. Yes, they weren't, dictating what we're doing, but outside their remit of their work, they were inputting into our, for example, processes and how we can improve it. I'll talk a bit more about that when I'm talking about the impact of this project. But this is, I just wanted to emphasize here the setup of the work and why kind of, in my opinion, quite effective. But then what happened? So one thing Maricela was working very closely is with talking to the model end users and asking them how they explain the machine learning models. So for quite a lot of our models, they are using as a support assistance tool to the decision makers. So there's human in the loop, there's human agency. So when she was asking the end user about the explanations, so we as a team provide technical explanations from our side, so it's available for them to use. And what she realized is the explanations that she was getting from the model end user is basically shaped around, yes, it's entangled with the technical explanations, but it's shaped around their own expertise, organizational practices and processes, as well as the company values. So that was basically not quite surprising. There's basically a shift more towards the social explanations that they were giving when asked. And the other thing is, obviously, when I mentioned about machine learning practices, there's quite a lot of actors in that space, and different people have different ways of explaining. Not surprising. But also, it differs. If you ask me to explain something, it would differ to whom I'm explaining it to, when I'm explaining, depending on what point in the process I'm explaining it to. So there's that like time of dynamic element of time, but there's also who I'm talking to. Am I talking to the model end user? Am I talking to a technical audience? Am I talking to a C-suite? So we also wanted to focus more on, rather than coming up with an individual explanation, there needs to be an ecology of explanations to accommodate for those different needs. And finally, one thing we've noticed is initially the responsibility of explaining the models were mainly on our shoulders. Okay, we're the data science team, we're building the models, we have to explain what we're building. Well, yes, we have to give those explanations. But the more we're having those conversations together with the stakeholders, we felt like there's a shift in responsibility. All of the actors in that machine learning practice is responsible to an extent and contribute to that whole ecology of explanations. So that was also quite refreshing to see that there's that shift happening. So it's not just on our shoulders, it's a collective effort that we have to co-create together. So you can ask, can you not do it with someone in your company as well? So I just wanted to emphasize one thing here, that our academic partners, in a way, bridge the gap between us, AI practitioners, and the AI public that we have. So it is our internal and external customers. So internal customers is what I'm focusing on today in terms of our stakeholders. Because yes, they were embedded, but at the end of the day, they're external parties and they're academics, they're researchers. There's this objective outside-in view that they brought, and they created almost that, safe environment in a way. Objective environment is a better word to say. In all of those discussions when we were having with our stakeholders. So bridging that gap was quite valuable. And what did we do at the back of all of that activity? So how did we basically translate that qualitative work into more tangible outcomes. So a few of the things that Maricela did was to run creative design workshops. So every actor in that machine learning practice were available at those workshops, and everyone was basically talking freely what they need to be able to explain or contribute to that ecology of explanations. Those conversations also, in turn, strengthen our relationship with the wider business. So on a day-to-day basis, when we're working on projects, yes, we're very close to our stakeholders, but stakeholders are not necessarily the model end users, or not all the time. So this work also brought us closer to the model end users. And what happened is we built really, really good relationships, and we got invited to shadow their work, and in turn we did the same with them. So shadowing their work is also great because it would directly input into how we design our machine learning models, and they can directly input into how we design our machine learning models. So there's that strengthened relationship which leads to the co-creation of machine learning practices. So everyone has a sense of, yes, we're building this together. It's not like, oh yeah, we're going to data science team and they're doing something magical and we don't know what they're doing. So at the same time of this project, one thing we were doing in parallel, because initially, if you remember, when I was talking about the research and innovation part of our team's work, we also do leverage our team's capabilities. So in parallel to the external collaborative project that we were also running an internal project to create an explainability interpretability package, a Python package internally. So when we were actually building it, we also got a lot of feedback from our stakeholders and model end users. So we basically are now returning explainability as part of our return message of our machine learning models. And then again, our end users got a big say in that. And now the wider business wants that tool too, so which is great because we got more attraction around that tool. Like I mentioned, that ignited a full-on collaboration within the business. So this project brought us closer to the model end users, and they are co-designers, and they become co-designers in the process, which basically also enables us to create efficient feedback loops of how our models are performing, what is missing, what else is needed, what do they need, not what we think they need. And also in terms of education and awareness, again, goes in both ways. We learned more about the domain practice, and we create almost that pipeline of how we can shadow the work, how we can onboard new starters, and they can get going, understanding what the business is doing. But also on the flip side, more awareness around data science, increased data literacy. There's also more information and material available around the data literacy within the company as well. So all in all, I'd say we had a massive improvement on our internal processes thanks to Maricela's project together with the other collaborations that we have. So when I mentioned Maricela has become a part of the team, she was really, really embedded in our team. She was basically coming to our team socials as well. But this was great. From the get-go, from the scoping stage, to the very end of the project, we worked as one team. It's not like you, the academic, you, the company that is funding this project. No, everyone's bringing different things on the table, and we're a team, and we work together. And this enabled a continuous knowledge exchange throughout the project, rather than a case where you interact a lot while you're scoping, and then you interact a lot at the very end of the project to go and basically get the outcome and try to do something with that outcome. So it was great. So it was a continuous knowledge exchange and continuous impact to the business. And like I mentioned, it also leads to more input from the researchers, because they see the process and they bring that fresh socio-technical, human-centric thinking to our team. And it is quite refreshing. And also, from our side, it is a great way to learn, because, yes, there are some tangible benefits that I mentioned, how we improved our processes, but there's also the whole plethora of benefits that we got from this project, which you cannot count, which is basically the change of the mindset within the data science team. Because we were exposed to that different social sciences way of thinking in a way, which was great. So this very close-knit collaboration achieved more than we anticipated, and quite frankly, more than we could have imagined. And so what we did is also created the blueprints of a perfect collaboration between academia and industry, well, specifically our company. So what we since then tried doing is to replicate that as much as we can with our other academic partnerships, because from first hand we've witnessed how much value it brings to us as a team and also to the wider company. But also, this is a great poster child and great example that we can go out and show to the wider business. Well, yes, this was with data science, but it was also with the claims department, so there's also quite a lot of champions talking about this project. But it also shows that we can use our academic partners as an extended arm of our team. So we have this great academic network, and the business, if they want, can see that as an extended arm, and we can pull in support from whenever we need, depending on what expertise we need. So this was great. This project was great, and it set a great example and served for that purpose as well, because it opened up a new way for us as a data science team to serve the wider business. And all in all, it widened the horizon of our research and innovation. So we have a new research theme, and there will be more projects coming up in that theme, building on the great work that Maricela and Kate has done. There's this visual that Kieran created. I really liked it. And he said, when we started this project, we started flipping one tile. That was the original purpose of the project, but almost like a domino effect. We started flipping more tiles. So the light blue ones are the ones we flipped already. And we keep flipping more tiles as we analyze the results and reflect on the learnings that we have on that project. I personally, and us as a team, have learned a lot from this project, and like I said, it also shaped the future of what we want to do next. So I would say watch this space of what's coming up, because I'm personally very excited about it. But before I finish, I want to give some special thanks to Maricela and Kieran Blinkham. He's a senior data scientist in our team, because I shamelessly stole their slides, well, some of the slides. And a few weeks ago, so if you enjoyed my talk, or if you like the idea of the project, I strongly recommend you to watch another recorded talk. It was all three of us reflecting on the work from our own perspective, so you can basically hear it directly from from Maricela and Kieran. So it's on YouTube, and I put a link, but I'm not sure if we'll be circulating. We will be circulating the videos, the slides, so you'll be able to watch it. So, well, thank you so much for listening. If you're interested, please connect me on LinkedIn.
Thank you very much. My key takeaway from there is like collaborative research is at the heart of everything we do. We've got some time for some questions if anyone would like to ask a question. Yeah.
Hi, thank you for the talk.
Hi,
it's really good to see like the intangible benefits that you kind of outlined. Can you give some examples of like the technical changes that might have come about from this kind of collaboration?
Like I mentioned, it inputted very heavily the way we created that interpretability tool that we've created, the Python package. And then it became a part of our response message that we're sending back as part of our like model responses back to the business. So that was like the main one. But the other parts is, so this more like human-centric socio-technical way of thinking helped us to input to an extent differently to even like in technical context when we get asked to, for example, send a response to the wider government. There was like FCA, if I'm not mistaken, asking for a response around use of synthetic data, for example. But these learnings even come handy to reflect some of that. So it's basically like proper social mindset and technical combining, I would say, helped a lot. And also there's a whole responsible AI side of work that we are heavily inputting the way we learned everything from this side to that work stream.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did someone here have a question? You had a question.
Hi, thanks for the great talk.
Thank you.
Very similar question, maybe the answer is very similar, is on explainable AI. So did you also leverage like open source tools for building that, or
Yeah.
what was the framework?
Yes, exactly. So a further wrapper to some of the open source tools that are available, like SHAP, for example. But we also explored some of the other open source Python packages as well to the wider explainability, as well as the more bias analysis and mitigation techniques. Also on the open source front, I would shamelessly advocate and advertise our open source packages. So we do have some open source Python packages as well. So please go and check our GitHub page, LVGig.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Over here.
Good morning. Thanks for the talk.
Good morning.
So you've mentioned you have approximately 50 decisions being made by the data science team's models. Are you feeling constrained for using some of the specific modeling techniques for some of the models? So say, if it's a simple use case, you will be happy with logistic or regression or some simple tree model, but say in another area you feel like you can drop the most complicated neural network and you don't have to be explainable. Mm-hmm. And do you feel pressure from the regulators anywhere in your business to explain how the decisions are made and to make sure there is no, say, gender bias in insurance or any other biases?
Yeah. Yes, to a certain extent, but I think that there are bigger restrictions than that as well, because for every use case it's quite unique. What exactly do you need and what purpose does it serve? Sometimes those more complicated models are not better than your simpler models because of the type of data that you're dealing with. There's also another not complexity, but limitation to an extent is when you're integrating into source system, the response time can also be a limiting factor. So there's a whole bunch of factors that we're dealing with when we are working on our models and trying to come up with which one's the best. Of course, the most explainable one is the best. But then, how do you put pros and cons per model? And then how do you weigh? If the performance improvement is minuscule, which is quite often the case with more complicated models, then there's no brainer in that case.
I think we have time for one more question, if anyone had another question.
Hi, Merve.
Hi.
I was wondering, I really like your idea of going outside the data science sort of ecosystem in terms of people.
Yeah.
How sort of difficult was that to sell to your stakeholders? And how surprised were the social scientists and the business people? Because, I always think of the sort of Venn diagram where you need hacking, as in coding skills, you need maths and stats, but then you need domain expertise. And I think too often data is just rows and columns and values.
Exactly.
And I find my SMEs are my best friends. And I think you've taken that on steroids and gone, well, do you know what? I'm going to bring in academics. I'm going to bring other disciplines. Yeah. Which I think might be a little bit either scary or new to people. So how did you do that?
It is. No, you're absolutely right. So one thing to flush out, we were quite close to our stakeholders, exactly to your point. So that was a bit easier to an extent because they knew what we were doing and they knew the benefits that we were bringing to the business. And because we were quite close to them, we kind of were believing we were fully co-creating. But this project also enabled us to see, well, no, it's more almost on steroids. Okay, I can't talk, but he got me. But there are certain aspects that people are worried about. Why are you, for example, the researcher going in and maybe trying to listen in to their conversation? There were a few agreements done. And it was really clearly agreements as in proper contracts, and it was clearly the boundaries were clearly set because everyone who was involved in that work, it was anonymous. like we don't know who said what, we don't know where it came, like a certain comment came from, and when that kind of trust and the boundaries were set, it was a bit easier to, from all angles, to help the researchers and share that knowledge, because it was more like, we're not here to interrogate you or ask you questions and then go back to your manager and tell you what you just said. So it kind of like really created that. That's what I mean. Having the academics in created that objective external ground, rather than anyone maybe in the company doing it and saying, no, we're going to keep it anonymous. Well, yes, it will be kept anonymous, but I think there was also a level of that psychological aspect. But I should also give a big shout out saying our C-suite were quite supportive on that project, and I don't think it probably would have been possible to even kickstart without their support. So it is very crucial.
I love the idea of unbiased actors, the academics.
Exactly. That objective academic ground, the research ground, I think is quite key. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you very much, everyone, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for coming.